Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Visio. In this module, I want to cover the basics. So this is for people who have never really used Visio before. This is the home screen. Across the top, you may get some templates. It depends if somebody else has been onto this machine, your machine, and used Visio before. What I'm going to do is go to the new tab, and then you'll get, again, you might get some options across the top, but you then get these different categories. Now, if I click on some of these, you can see it produces a different set per category. So I've gone onto network there. I can go back and click on a different thing. Flowcharts. These are the flowcharts you can get from Visio. The online version has different ones than this. Go back again and you can see different sections there, software. All of these are diagram templates. That's what this is called. The templates give you a starting point. And then if I look at business, there's quite a few in business. You scroll down there, like so. Now what I'm going to do is just create a basic shape diagram so you can see how the basic concepts work. Those basic concepts would then apply to all of these templates. So to do that, I'm going for this option, basic diagram, and I'm going to create it. So what I'll get is a set of 10 stencils down the left hand side here. Now depending on what diagram you have picked, if I just make that a bit bigger, depends on how many stencils you get there. So you can see I've got quite a few on this one, basic shapes. I'll go on that one. Now these shapes, I've got names. You just basically click on a shape and drag it onto the drawing area, and then the shape sits there. Now that says rectangle, that's what it is. If I make that bigger, it's still a rectangle. If I make it smaller, it's still a rectangle. If I pull on a square is a square, whether it's large or small. It doesn't change its shape dynamics like that would happen in Excel or Word. If you changed a rectangle, you could make a rectangle into a square and vice versa for a square to a rectangle, but not in Visio. It's what it says on the tin. Square is a square, rectangle is a rectangle. Now, as with all Microsoft packages, across the top you've got the ribbon. This is the home tab. So you've got some basic concepts on the home tab. The main bit I want to focus on is this area, tools. The pointer tool is on by default, which means you can click and select things. The connector tool is what you need if you want to join two shapes together, which is what I want to do now. Clicking on that, you see these little squares, these are connection points. If you go to a shape and connect to a connection point, it says glue to connection point there, look. That is a type of connection. Now you see this is still active, it's still on. Something that some people find really annoying with Visio is that you have to physically click that off by clicking the pointer tool to remove it. Now that is called a point-to-point connection. If I move this around, it always stays on those 2 points. It doesn't actually change to make it the shortest distance between the two. So if I click off that though, there is a connection type that you can use. If I go and get that connection tool again, you see the whole shape is green. So I'm not hovering over one of these little connection points. The whole shape is green, so I'm dragging from the green shape to another green shape. Even though it looks like it's gone onto a point, it says glue to shape. And again, I need to knock off that. So this basically now, if I move this shape around, it will snap to the shortest distance between the two shapes, which is a shape to shape. So you have a point to point, you have a shape to shape. Now, if I just delete these two for now, get rid of them, bring it back on a rectangle, make it a little bit bigger. Each of these shapes has a text box within it. So if I just start typing my name, it will appear in the center, and you can see a little ruler appearing there as well. Now, if I don't want that to be in the center, you've got some basic formatting tools on the ribbon. So up there, look, top, left. And you can just play around with this. Now, if you want to put a bullet on wherever text you've got in a shape, you can do that. If I click on this bullet on there, you can see a bullet there. And if I double click into this shape, type my name again and press enter, I'll get a bullet every time I do that. If you want to do additional formatting that you can't see on these buttons on the ribbon, you've got this option there where you can go into some more options where, for example, you might want to set tabs. You might want to change the style of the bullets that you've got. You've got the font tab there. You don't really need to come in here to change the font because you've got it there on the ribbon. You've also got that little button there which comes into this box. You've got the character spacing, scaling, and paragraph left, right, center, etc., etc. So I'll click OK to that. Now, what you've also got, if you go into the Design tab, you've got these themes, these preset themes that you can select. So if I click on that one, for example, and then you've got like these little sub variants of it. Now, all this has changed color. I'll pick a different one. This changed color again. So you can have different themes for your template. You can also, if I click off this, use these features. Background, first of all. These are background pages that you can select. So I'm going to go for this one. And then that becomes a see-through page for all your pages. So if I go down the bottom there, page 1, it says that's a background page, which is just that. Whatever I put on this background page will see through onto page 1. So if I just go and get myself borders and titles, I'll just pick any random one. Now, I can't actually type on that on this page, page 1. I need to get into the background because that's also on the background. And then you can actually edit the title by just double clicking on it and typing a name. Come back onto this. That's come through. If I want to add an extra page, I'll go plus. So page 2 has also got all of that information. Page 1 has got that information. That background page is automatically attached. If I go plus again and then right click on this one and go into page setup, what you can do is you can create your own background page. If you don't want to use one of these preloaded ones, you can just tick background and then this background page, if I click OK to it, I'm going to delete this one off. Yes. But now I've got page 1, page 2, and background. So on the background, for example, I might want to put a logo or something like that. So if I just go in back to home, what can I do? I'll do a little text box and just put Steve on the background page. Click off that. And then that's just sitting there, but it's not attached to page 2. It's not attached to page 1. What you have to do now is you have to go into page setup on each of those pages and get it to look at a particular background. There's only one. I've not named the background page, but I could have named that logo. And then it'll pull that through. And I need to do that on every page. Background, okay. And then it pulls it through. So you create a logo page and then just have it attached to every page. Now, if you did that first, as you add extra pages, that might pick it up. So back to this one. What I want to look at now is a feature called layers. Now, I want to just put these two on top of this for a minute and change the color of one of them, that one, and then change the color of the other one to something different. All these colors are a bit bright. So I've got 3 different shapes. Highlight these. That's the layer that I want, and then you can lock a layer down so it doesn't move. Over on the, still on the home tab, on the right there, you've got layers. I'm going to assign layers, and then I'm going to go new, and I'll just call it Steve. So these 3 shapes are in this layer. Okay. And then I'm going into layer properties, and then you've got Steve there, look, and then you can tick lock, for example. Click OK to that, and then they're locked. I can't actually move them. I can actually add things on top of them, like so. Just change the color of that to something else, that color. That's movable. The rest of it's locked. And for me to move any of those, if I need to make an adjustment, I also need to go back into layer properties and take that lock off. So that's what that's for. It's probably more useful, to be honest, on a diagram that's got like a floor plan or an office plan where you need things not to move. You can just layer them, and then you can show different layers and hide different layers if you want by just taking the ticks off. Just show you what I mean by that. If I go into layer properties, So you've got active, you can just take it off and then it's not going to be there. And you can just hide things and display other layers if you want. Now, in terms of stencils, there's loads of stencils, as I said at the beginning, but quite often the stencil is not showing you what you want to do on the diagram. So what you've got the option to do is go to this feature, more shapes, and then you can get stencils from other templates. If you know that there's a template which has a particular stencil set in it, you can then just bring it into this diagram and utilize it from there. So if I go, let's go on this one, hundreds of stencils. I'm just clicking on a random one. I don't even know what's on that one. Okay, different bits of an office. There you go. Now it's part of this diagram. If you want to create your own stencil and then add shapes to it, you can do that also. So let's have a look. If I go more shapes, you've got new stencil. Just gives you a blank area that you can then add shapes to. So if I just want to add this shape in, for example, I could just drag that into there. Comes up with master. I'll call it Steve. And then that's the shape. Notice now there's a save button there. If I click on save, it will ask me to name it. I'll call this Steve. And then it's saved that stencil. I can then open this stencil in different diagram templates if I want, or I can just leave it in this one. You don't want it anymore, you can close it. If you want to pull shapes from other stencils, like if I want, say I want this square, you just grab this stencil, grab the shape, move it on top of your name, whatever you've named it, which will then open the stencil, and then you can just drop it in there like that, and there's a square. You don't really need to do that for some of these shapes. This is mainly for if you create your own actual shape, like I've done ones for nodes in project management, and I had to do that shape. I had to create a circle with a cross in it and then put some text boxes in. Once I've done that, I added it to my stencil. I'll save that one again. Okay, so that's creating your own stencil. Now, if you want to create a new diagram or pick another one, you're going up to File, New, and you're back to this screen, and then you can pick a different type. So flowchart, for example, you've got different options. I'll go for the blank one so you can see it. Create, and then there's your flowchart stencils. Now with this one, if I come up with a start button, you can see that it's very quick to do this. You get these little arrows coming out of the side, which gives you some default options. So I can actually do a question there, do a process, do another question, and then do a process, and then do an end. It's very, very quick and dynamic how to do that. And each of these, as I've said, has a text box in them. So you can basically just type wherever the process is. Now on the decision one, you might want to go out of the side there and have a box and then put a connection tool back up. So if I go connector and sit on the edge there and go back to the start. So that's the circle. There's a question. This might be the yes answer. Let's say this is a no answer actually. No. Double click no. And then this is yes. Double click yes. So the flowchart will follow that route. If it's not right, you're going back to the beginning. So that's just another example of a diagram template that's already pre-set up and how quick it is to do a flowchart, for example. And then the same process would be you save this and do the design features if you want. Go into design, change the color. That's quite nice. And then put your background page on if you so wish. But that's all I want to talk about in this little session. How to get going with Microsoft Visio if you're a complete novice with it. So hopefully that's been of use. Thank you for your time. I'll catch you in the next one.